Okay. Everyone in the live stream universe is watching me um, as I navigate the errors that always show up every time I go live.
Are you talking about your errors with regards to streaming and not getting live
Yeah,
streamed everywhere that you want? Is that what you mean?
yeah, exactly. It just acts
Mhm.
silly and funny and tends to want to give me a hard time.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. And as you do that, I think whoever's hearing this from the different platforms that we use, we're going to start doing an A/B test, and whoever is easiest for us to use, that's what we're going to use, and we're going to
yep.
start promoting that to everybody.
Yeah, totally. Like I have about 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. Like I clearly have networked a lot in my life, but
10,000. That's a lot. That's a
it's
lot.
a decent amount, right?
That's more than
But
mine.
it,
I, I have just shy of 5,000.
which is a great number.
Yeah.
And then LinkedIn requires me to apply for the ability to live stream. And it's
Mhm.
like, you know, clearly enough people like me enough to connect to me.
Mm.
But thank you for the barrier of entry for to actually share my thoughts with them and that sort of thing. But anyways, we'll see. I'm sure it's just a matter of time before the
Like,
application gets approved.
come on, LinkedIn. Just give us the verified circle, please.
That's
Just
it. Hook a girl up, you know.
hook a girl up. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, Dustin, thanks for joining me today. How's your
Yeah,
Friday going?
my pleasure. My pleasure being having conversations with you and kind of live streaming this to the world. I think this is like I've mentioned in other things. I think it's long past due. There's a lot of things here at Payment Evolution, and in our world that we're dealing with, that is like super compelling and super, I would say, relevant to a lot of our entrepreneurs that we're dealing with right now that we
Mm,
kind of help and serve. But not only that, for it's also really relevant for the ones that we don't serve. And so if you're not a person who knows who we are and you just happen to be kind of like in our social circles, I think it might be smart for me to kind of give a little bit of background about myself and then kind of let you know who you're talking to and maybe not why you should listen, but like
mm.
why this is kind of why what we're doing, why we're doing it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of things that we do, but um, you tell me. You guide this. You're the hostess of with the mostest. So tell
I
me.
try. I try. Well, okay. So we have a topic on the editorial calendar. We're talking about payroll horror stories,
Yeah.
but that is within the greater context of the fact that we sell payroll as our flagship product.
Hmm.
We do that because we're trying to empower small businesses,
Hmm.
and it, and we're really trying to disrupt these like generally the entrepreneurial world is in a state of flux, and I think we're trying to be a part of the solution. So yeah, I think the payroll horror stories is sort of where we'll start, but ultimately this is a bigger picture revolution. We're not just trying to fix payroll.
Yeah.
And I think we're part of a bigger revolution. This isn't just us
Hmm.
with our own agenda. I think a bunch of us are out there caring about this very deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. So payroll horror stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here okay, you're head of sales and you've been in accounting, like tech sales for a while, like fintech sales.
Yep. About
Um,
10.
10 years.
Oh, 15
Um,
years about, if I'm not mistaken.
so like definitely you're gonna have had some instances where you talked to people who were like, I don't even know. Like, I hate this process. I don't even want to choose payroll. A software.
Yeah.
I don't want to run payroll. Help, help, help,
Yeah.
or just take it off my hands or whatever. Like, what are some of those pains? The horror stories or the pains or whatever it is that made people grateful to talk to you. Yeah, tell me a little bit about those experiences. Maybe pick one of the worst ones.
Okay, so payroll horror stories. I think it all comes down to if you don't have a payroll system or have systems in general,
Hmm.
you're gonna have, excuse my language, you're gonna have a shit go. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's funny, anytime I had a conversation or any of the payroll kind of scenarios that I have in my mind that are horror stories,
Mhm.
they all come out with the same beginning, which is, I don't even know what I should be using. And I need to pay my contractor. I need to
Yeah,
pay them. I can't just be giving them an e-transfer. I need to
yeah,
give something documented.
yeah,
And it's like, this is an employee or a contractor where maybe you're not, taking out the taxes, and maybe there was a contract that like what's it called, independent contractor
yeah,
agreement that you may have signed with them, and you're paying them specifically per project, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're not using a system and you just happen to be like, okay, well, I said I was going to give you $500 for this project, you finished it, here it is.
yeah,
you know? I think the horror story is the fact that if you don't have something automated, you're going to kick yourself in the butt, because two things are going to happen.
truth. Mhm.
You're going to want to change something up, because there's
Mhm.
something that we all do as entrepreneurs, which is, we say, hey, this is what we need done, we'll pay somebody to do it, and we don't do enough scope creep, meaning we don't find out
Yeah,
if that person needs to do more. So a person, if we say, hey, we want a new logo, and a person gives us a new logo and we pay them $500 for it, or whatever it may be, and then we're like, oh, but can you make that change? Oh, can you make that change? Oh, but can you make that change? Like, it's like, oh, okay. So why wouldn't you just do it, based on, hey, here's the $500. Let's take the time that we know that it's going to allot us for, and I'll pay you amongst that time. It
yeah,
might be smart for us to do that. Maybe we're working in the next 2-3 weeks. I'll pay you 500 divided by 3 weeks. I don't know. Like, I'm just giving
yeah.
an example.
Totally. And I think what you're talking about there is the fact that as an entrepreneur, you're trying to get stuff done. So
Right.
if you know you need your logo done, you engage somebody, you agree on a price, and then, how do I process this payment? It becomes an afterthought. But if you treat it, if you make the decision like an afterthought, then you come up against that exact challenge where you're literally rethinking the solution every single time.
Yeah.
And then you have data everywhere,
Yeah.
and good luck keeping track of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, these are decisions you have to dig into, even if it's kind of like the foundation of a house, where once it's done, no one's going to see those bricks or cement in the ground, but it's still critical to the business having the right legs, the right foundation.
Yeah. Don't treat payroll like a prenup. Prenups are great for some people. Okay.
Hmm.
Treat payroll like the expectation, the crucial conversation prior to getting engaged, to see if this person really truly is that the right fit. And I know it sounds kind of funny. This is for all of our, it should be accessible to all of our. I want to make this example available for anybody in any type of lifestyle.
Sure.
If you have a conversation with your significant other before something happens and you agree
Yeah.
to it first, it's always going to be a better conversation than you getting angry and being like, well, just before we commit to something, let me prenup this stuff. And it could be good, it could be not good, depending on the
Yep.
situation. So yeah, those I mean, that's the kind of the overview with regards to the horror story. I can tell you of a couple of horror stories, actually.
Let's hear
I
it.
remember working with a client, and they ended up telling me that they hadn't paid their contractor for a long time. And actually, they hadn't paid their contractor not because they didn't have money. They didn't pay their contractor or employee, whatever it was, if I can't remember correctly. They didn't pay the individual because they didn't know how to properly do it.
Hmm.
And so basically, it had been like, it had been
Oh,
over. They had been, instead of just sending a check, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just trying to find a way," and they had told the contractor, I'm finding a way to get you paid," and the person's like, "Just send me a damn e-transfer."
yeah,
And
yeah.
but there was this analysis paralysis from a lot of business owners, or the entrepreneur, that what ended up happening is that he ended up getting a shit reputation from contractors, and he couldn't hire people, and then he in turn had to change his reputation, which in
Totally.
turn cost him a ton more money out in the market, and then was more than $50 a month. like
Yeah.
God damn it, people pay $50 a month, or whatever, to be able to hook yourself up.
To
Like,
avoid those problems
yeah.
later, right? Yeah,
And
like,
then,
you have to think about how, like, sometimes when you buy a house, if you have the cash to buy it up front, it costs you what you agreed to.
right.
If you mortgage it, officially it costs you more. And we don't usually talk about that. People will say, "Oh, how much was your house?" But nobody will actually take the data. drag it out in an Excel sheet over 25 years and say, actually, my house cost me 15% more, or whatever it works out to with interest. But if you don't do that due diligence up front, you're kind of amortizing what you would have paid anyways. And the convenience of not paying it up front, of not putting that time in up front, costs you more. And
Yeah.
we're not even talking about penalties.
Yeah, we're not even talking about penalties.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about penalties. We're not even talking about, just general business sense that allows you to be a little bit more efficient. We're talking even about your reputation. Do you want to be known as an employer that doesn't pay?
Yeah.
This is something that for me as a person of integrity, and for many people out there, I think is going to be something important. I remember that I would hound my contractors when I had my own business, and I'd be like, your check's here. And when are you going to, just don't worry about it. I'll hold on to it. I'll get it over next week or whatever. I'll come by to the office. I'm like, no, I'm mailing it to you. They're like, no, I don't want to mail it. Like, I want to make sure that I was like, I'm coming to your house tonight to pay.
Yeah.
Like, and it's because the type of business I had I had like about 130 contractors at one point in time, and I wanted to hire the best, and I didn't want ever someone to say that guy never paid you, paid me. Right? Think about that for a second. And there's lots of people out there that this happens to. Like I come from a background where there's, I'm Latino by descent. I was born in Nicaragua, but I'm married into a very Italian family, and all of them are very much tradesmen. And so, there's tradesmen that have integrity, and then there's tradesmen that are like, whatever, I don't really care. And unfortunately, we live in that world. But what I mean by that is that I did sales. I did third party sales at that point in time when I was running my own sales consultancy and my own business.
Yeah.
But these people are building houses, people are, making, some type of contractor work, and they don't pay their guys. And then their guys are like, not doing that. It's a rough go, and it doesn't give a great reputation. Not only that, but when someone says, hey, go work for this guy, he's,
totally.
it becomes a good credibility shield. So, I think the horror story really lies in, don't correlate, or don't, I guess what's the wording I want to use? Make sure that just because you don't know something, don't make the issue that it associates with you having less integrity, right? Give yourself the fighting chance, and then actually have a good system for yourself. You don't have to have a good system either. You can have a basic system. It could be an Excel sheet. It could be your bookkeeper. It could be like, hey, sweetie, put it down in my notepad that I need to pay this guy. It could be as simple as that, right?
Yeah, it could be Friday night date night with your spouse, whatever, but do it right. I want to. It's so interesting to me that you mentioned reputation and how it can affect your reputation, because we think about something like payroll as it's logistics, it's just function, it's utilities, it's just you need to have the lights on. It's just one of those things that happens in the background. Right. Reputation is something very different, right? Reputation permeates everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
Reputation in psychology, around communications, we know that social proof is one of the biggest influencers. So if you give me, I don't know, if I got a little ice cream cart and you give me a good review on Google, that is better for me when someone searches than me paying for an ad.
Absolutely.
And significantly. And I don't know the stats right now off the top of my head, but we know the research tells us that when people are in favor of you, it's a vote in your favor. Mm-hmm. And that says more than any ad could ever say, any pitch you as a salesperson could ever give.
Right.
And then for something you kind of wrote off as a utility that happens it's on the back burner. It happens behind the scenes. No one cares. I don't care. I don't pay much attention to it. I just get it done. It can actually affect your business and big time.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. I remember a brand, I can't remember the name right now, but wouldn't out them anyway, but it was a solar energy company, and I was working with them on reputation, and they had a horrible reputation because they had one program that they did with the government, and the program was a nightmare. So the people who signed up for it, got the rebate or whatever, went through this company to get their solar panels put up, and then they reviewed the company who put up the solar panels badly for the government program. And they actually are saying that in the wording, but you're not reading the wording. You just look solar panels and you see 2 stars, and you're like, hell no, I'm not going to take a gamble on something new. And it's not, you can't just pick it up anywhere. It's not a standard thing. And people are telling me it's not good. So I think it's very reasonable to assume that if you're not paying your people on time, if you're not paying your people properly, if you're getting the amounts wrong, if you're creating more backlog around paperwork, anything like that, it's not just going to affect your reputation with contractors.
Right.
Like customers will hear this.
Yeah.
It will affect your sales.
Screw Google for a second. Let me go take a look at Glassdoor. Like when people are getting hired, like
Yep.
you think they don't research you, and they say, oh, these people do X, Y, Z. Like, come on. Like you are doing yourself a disservice by not being aware of those things. And so, this kind of leads me to a little bit of a side tangent, which is like, people, it's okay for you to use these tools so that you're aware of yourself. And, if you won't do it for your business, who will? And so, remember, like, if you're scaling and you have other responsibilities that you want to do, then hire somebody, and don't skimp on the hiring, and make sure you know that information. And so, all of it in turns, like you can easily scale. It's very tough for one person to have a one-person owner-operator business and be a multimillionaire. It can happen, but it's very rare. Like if you want to go far, right, you're going to have the team. If you want to go fast, it's just going to be you. So, there's a lot of thought around making sure that you actually have these comments and take care of everything you need to do to help yourself out with these, processes, tools, yourself, your reputation, like you said. So it's going to be really, really important. Yeah, absolutely. So
whenever I'm working with a client, or if I'm working internally at a company, I'm an employee, one of my biggest bottlenecks is there might be something that would be nice to have done right now. But if I know that we're going to have to redo it because we're not yet ready, I prefer to put that thing off, and work on whatever the initial piece is, because I prefer to do that task once rather than do it now just so we have it done, and then do it again when we're actually ready to do it right.
Okay.
And I feel like choosing a payroll solution is like that. As soon as you got to pay somebody, just spend the darn time and get it done right. And don't just think about costs and features. Check out customer support reviews.
Yeah.
When things go down, you want to know that they're going to have your back, right? So yeah, I just think if you're going to do it, if you're going to be paying that one contractor, spend the couple of hours that it'll take you, spend the day, if that's what it's going to take you, to figure out how to never have to find out again. To figure out a system so that it's fairly turnkey from that point, and you know what you're doing next. You're not rethinking it every time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree wholeheartedly. I don't think that there's anything wrong. It's funny. I don't know if you can see it or not, but my wife just came in from doing some work, so you might see someone in the background. Yeah, it's just super cool. Love her. It's all good.
Me too. Not as much as you, but
no, it's all good. But I'm trying to remember your question, but I think ultimately, yeah, make the investment now.
Yeah.
Don't do, this might come off as a bit of a side tangent, and we talked about this too, but don't be like a respected family member that told you don't get into business. Be a person that invests in yourself first to know how to do all these things. Because the problem is that you're gonna have, as an entrepreneur, there's gonna be people that are like, yeah, all for you, do your thing, right? but when you need the actual help done, it won't happen. So do yourself your favor. Clap for your damn self.
Yeah.
Make sure you learn yourself what you
Yeah.
need to do,
Sure.
and then be able to make that decision of what it is. Like, and it's better to do it now than later.
Right.
I'm a firm believer when I talk to accounting professionals or even business owners in general right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's three things that you need to know. One, how you're going to get your money in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure that you send an invoice out. So sending invoice out, how to receive that money. So accounts
Yeah.
payable, okay, and accounts
Mm-hmm.
receivable.
Yeah.
How you're going to pay your team members and yourself, okay, and then do it in a compliant manner. And then what are the tools that you're using to make sure that your funnel, right,
Mm-hmm.
is filled up so you consistently have revenue coming in, so you're consistently
That cash flow. Yeah, totally.
right. And so you need to make that decision now. And a lot of people don't have that, because usually what ends up happening in the gig economy is that, or for anybody who's a small business owner, is that they're just trying to do their trade. That's really all it is.
Yeah, totally. And that's why they started their business to begin with. No one starts a business because they're really excited about creating the back end.
Mhm.
No one's saying, I I want to open a coffee shop because I'm really excited about those first 2 months of renovating a unit. Like, if
Yeah.
that's the reason you're doing it, you're doing the wrong thing, right? That's temporary. So yeah, you want all this other stuff to get out of your way so you can do what you're there to actually do. You mentioned you had a couple of horror stories. Did you have another one hidden in there for us in your brain somewhere?
Yeah. The only other one that I knew is that there was there the crux of the kind of the problem was we had an employer, and then they had the employees, and the employees were for some reason not being able to provide their bank details.
Hmm.
And what ended up happening is that they said, okay, we'll write you a check. And they're like, no, we're going to give you my bank details. I don't want to have to hold my check, whatever. And then the employee ended up creating some type of fraud,
Hmm.
got fired.
Yeah.
There was no way to pay them.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. And then the because it took a long time, the employee came back to the employer and actually sued for not. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you have one standardized thing, just get it done, and
Yeah.
don't get screwed over with a legal battle, if you may. And I'm like,
Totally.
glossing over a couple of the details, but like
Sure.
that's essentially what happened. And either way you look at it, just like you can either, I say this about conversations, and this could be easily for any type of thing that we do in business. You can either do it well, you can not do it, or you can do it poorly. And out of those three choices, you really only have one. So
You do, but also please don't do it poorly. Like, why waste any energy? Just don't do it at all, you know?
because what you're gonna play the odds that nothing will happen, and you'll get away with having some extra couple $100 in your bank account. Really?
Okay. Well, but here's an example of that. So when I can't even remember because I've had a few different businesses. I can't remember which one, but very early on in my entrepreneurial journey, um, the idea of getting the CRA payroll number, figuring out payroll, paying taxes, paying fees, paying WSIB, registering for that, was I exempt? Like, there's just so many things that it seemed so it seems so difficult, like so many barriers to get some help. But I didn't have a ton of money, so it's not like I could hire somebody to figure it out for me. But I had enough money that I could get some help, and I needed help. So what I ended up doing was finding like college students that ultimately needed a limited hour number of hours, volunteer or for co-op, and I paid them an honorarium, which allowed me to get around the taxes. But I could only keep them for a very short period of time because an honorarium doesn't really,
Right.
like, you can't just pay someone an honorarium instead of pay them. That's not an
Yeah.
option,
It's not
right?
conducive to growth. Yeah.
No. So here I was trying to get the most out of my money, but I was kind of going about it the wrong way. Like, in one way, I was kind of shooting myself in the foot because then I didn't have the consistency. I was constantly training a new person,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I had here I was with the money to spend on a person and on payroll. Because if you can afford to pay a person, you can afford to pay payroll. It's
Yeah.
not that expensive.
This immediately makes me think of like my father's. For those of you who don't know, my dad has these. He was very, very funny in his formative years, and I got really lucky to have a great dad. But he ended up making a couple of like dad sayings or dadisms that we call, or as that show was once called, shit my dad says.
Yeah.
And he has this old school Latin saying, and I'll translate it. So it goes like this. It goes, El haragán y el mezquino van dos veces por el mismo camino. So all that means is that the lazy and the tight or the cheap, right, walk the same path twice. Okay. Don't be cheap.
Yeah.
And don't be lazy.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay for it twice.
Yeah. That's a great saying.
Yeah, I mean, hey, go take. You got to give respect to the pops of like.
Total respect. Like from so many perspectives, as a mom, it's so hard to convey that kind of message, and it's always better if there's sort of like a little mantra way of doing it, some sort of soundbite.
Yeah.
And as like I mentor a lot of young people. I really love seeing that energy when someone feels a sense of purpose and they haven't yet been burned by anything and they're just go go go. And so if someone asks me, I'll often have people on LinkedIn, for example, reach out to me and say, I just graduated from this school that you also went to, can I pick your brain? And that is such great advice for the ones that are entrepreneurs, but like career, it really doesn't matter around, just do it right. Plan, prepare. Sorry, my father-in-law, everyone says this isn't new, but he always said, measure twice, cut once.
Right.
And it's the same concept, right? You want to get to the end product. You want to see the result. You want to cut. You want to use that saw, but you're probably going to end up doing this for 5 more hours because you got to go back to the hardware store to get more supplies because you screwed it up because you measured wrong. It's crazy. So
there's these, I love these old world sayings that we hear, measure once, cut twice. What I just mentioned. There's another one that comes to mind immediately that is like, it's funny. Again, it's a Dustin's dad original. His name is Agustin, just so you know.
Okay.
And he said it early on. I remember being 6 years old and hearing this. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he said, Dustin, I need you to be careful. Okay. There is an order to things. And I said, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah. He's like, put it this way. First the underwear, then the pants. And I said, what? And he was like, yeah. Do you wear the underwear outside the pants? Or do you wear them inside? And I go, no, I wear them inside. He goes, why? And he goes, because then it's just weird. Because if you wear the underwear outside on the pants, you look like a fool. So first the underwear, then the pants. There's an order to things, remember? And I was like, damn, Dad, damn.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and and it's funny now. I'm saying it to my kids now. I know. First the underwear, then the pants. And he's like, oh, Dad, but these are important. We
for sure, huge.
It's interesting being in Canada because, I say it funny, but the amount of immigrants that we have in this country, in comparison to, let's say, our counterparts down south, we don't consider a melting pot. We consider like this quilt, right, of having a bunch of people, right? Oh, look at it, Dante. What are you doing?
We are hi, baby. We are live streaming. I'll come hug you later, okay?
And I think that I forgot what I was saying, but I think that that a lot of these great sayings are because of our immigrant families, and many of them entrepreneurs, right? There's a lot of different mentalities, right? So those that are very growth oriented, and some are fixed, right? And just to make sure that people understand when I say that is that not that people feel that they don't want to learn, is that they just feel that fixed usually just means that they feel that they were born with that, that skill set, right? So it's important. It's important that we realize that there's a lot more advice that we can get around the world that is super relevant. Is this?
Yeah, totally. So I have one that I'm going to share. This is from my grandfather. It's one of my favorite sayings, and I'm probably going to butcher it when I say it because it's in dialect, and I'm not great with dialect, but it's non guardare che forno fumo, and literally it means don't go looking to see which chimney is smoking.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and the funny thing to me about that is that, you know, when he was a young boy, that was probably a thing. It was probably a legitimate thing that you'd be like, oh, I guess they have wood, you know, I guess they have this or that, and you know, they have more than us, they're warm tonight, we're not. Literally spending your time looking at something that as a saying sounds so silly. Why would you do that? Why would you care? But there are so many things that we are distracted with that really don't matter today, and we
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're the biggest deal in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I really love that one. And then on that note, this is like completely a joke, but like it's a joke, it's a legit thing that happened, it's funny, but I have to tell it because it's just the time. Okay, so my grandfather was a partier. Most of my family members are. He comes home one night. This is not a like this happened. He comes home one night. He's fumbling at the door. This is in Canada. Once they're in Canada, and they actually lived just a few blocks from where I'm living
Oh,
right
a
now.
while ago,
This
not
is a long time ago. This is a very long time ago, probably like 50 years ago,
oh,
maybe.
yeah, okay, wow.
And so he's coming home, and he's a bit tipsy, and he's kind of fumbling outside, and he starts calling for my grandmother to come get him to let him in, and
What's her
he
name?
starts. Her name is Immaculata. Her nickname was Mecca,
Yeah,
and
Immaculate.
yeah, so she comes to the window on the second story and looks out, and she says, you know, his name was Francesco. His nickname was Fra. So she starts screaming, Fra, is that you? In Italian. And he says, yes, it's me. And he starts singing to her, and she's like, hold on a second, I'll throw you the key. Because she figures that's why he's not getting inside. And he responds, I have the key. Can you throw me the hole?
Yeah, couldn't even. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that like legit happened, and yeah, I just love I love when my family members are actually people you'd like to hang out with. Those moments are very special. So digression, and thank you for going down that path with me.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we can take in consideration. I remember about actually at the beginning of this year, there was this individual. Her name is Twyla Valhurst. She's the channel manager over at FreshBooks for the account channel, and she actually also has run her own business, and she had a cash flow business called Helm, and she actually she's a co-founder of it. And she started this challenge about, you know, basically putting up your, you know, a 1 minute video every day for the next month, let's say in January 1st or in January 1st. And so I remember, you know, a lot of people gave advice. A lot of people kind of just shared their every day. And, you know, I remember not knowing what to do. And I said, I'd be a part of this. And I'm a man of my word. So I was like, what am I going to do? And so there was like, there was about 30 days worth of these like old world sayings of
I
like,
love it.
you know, what we were doing and stuff like that. And funny enough, it resonated a ton with a lot of people. So don't be afraid to go talk to, you know, like the old members of our family that we think that are maybe not so helpful right now, but they could probably give you some really good advice on what you're trying to achieve personally and in business. You know, it's clear now that just because you were successful in business and not successful in the personal life, does that really mean success?
Yeah.
I don't know, not anymore. Like, I think the balance, that work-life integration is really important now. And so, you know,
For
succeed,
sure.
you know,
Yeah, for sure.
do what you got to do in business, but also do what you have to do with your family, right?
Yeah, for
Get
sure.
that balance in.
And so that's interesting to me because like wisdom, I believe, is transferable.
Yeah,
And I believe we often focus so much on our hard skills, like do you know how to use this software, whatever.
right.
Um, I sometimes coach people, like I career coach folks, and sometimes people are like, "Well, I want to switch careers, but I've never done that." And when we really talk about what they've been doing, actually, they've been doing a lot of what they want to move into, right?
Absolutely.
they just haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're an entrepreneur, like probably one of the best things to do is literally ask for advice. Somebody's been there. Think about it creatively yourself. You might have some intel yourself that you're not tapping into because it's not obvious. But ask around, and it ultimately comes down to this debate of, um, where do you get your advice from, and what is the um, source for capital T truth here. If you're trying to start a business, if you want to run payroll, if you need to make HR decisions, do you need a lawyer for every decision? Do
Mm.
you look at the review?
I think I might have lost you. Can't say I know what's happening here, Juliana. I'm sitting tight just in case. Can you hear me? It looks like she's exited. So Juliana has exited the building. I'm not quite sure exactly if she'd be. We'll wait a little longer to see if she comes on by. But I think that she was saying that where can we get some information on all that stuff, right? So I think there's a lot of places where you can get a lot of information, and get a mentor and receive some really great insight into where you're trying to head to. When it comes to running your business, I think that there's many ways of running a business, and you can actually, kind of decide how do you want to run yours. So it's good.
I'm so glad. Okay, I lost internet connection. I'm so glad that I came back and you're still talking, going with it. I love it.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. I figure that it's a quick thing, but I was kind of answering to the team how I think that getting a mentor or deciding on how you want to run your business is going to be really important, depending on how you get that information from wisdom and or experience. Um, I think that there's a lot of people out there that are very transactional and they just are doing it for money, And I think there's a lot of people that don't do it are in entrepreneurship because they think it's the cool thing to do, not because they actually have a vocation for it.
Yeah.
I think that people that love a certain industry, a certain job, or a certain career, and they by default have to be an entrepreneur. They're just pushed into all these things to develop and see who can be helpful for them. So I'll give you an example. So my wife's a chiropractor. She's a fantastic one, by the way. If anybody ever needs it, just look up Dr. Vanessa Petrini. She's fantastic. She also happens to be an instructor at the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College. I remember her starting off her career years ago, and she had a passion to help clients, and I say clients, but help patients, and help get to a specific level of mobility and not pain and things of that nature. But unfortunately, as a chiropractor, you are the hardest entrepreneur you can find. You're looking for your own patients. You're finding a way to market. You got to do it ethically because there's a code of conduct. You got to do a bunch of stuff. And so, there was a lot of advice that came from either myself, who was an entrepreneur at the time, or other people that we know that were entrepreneurs. And it just didn't resonate and it didn't help because it wasn't the same type of business. And so, although it's not the same type of business, doesn't mean that she couldn't have learned. It just means that you need to find somebody that's in your field that you like what they're doing. And believe it or not, being successful, or the top of the mountain of success, is lonely. People want to help you. People by and large want to help you. They don't see you as a competition, unless you are there and your mission is to crush the competition. Then you're probably not going to really get any help from them, and that's fine. Even then, you can learn from them what you shouldn't be doing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Right? So
Well, and you can see what they're doing in market that works, that resonates with you, that you like, for sure.
yeah,
Um,
I think a mentor is important to have. I think it's
yeah,
something that we need to do. Don't go ask a general practitioner in medicine what they would do in your chiropractic
yeah,
practice. But you guys are both. But Dustin, why not? They're both doctors. I'm like, yeah, but no, like.
yeah.
Why would you go ask a dentist about your back if
Plastic
you're a
surgery,
chiropractor?
sure, totally.
Yeah. No, it's not the same thing, right? So you got to use your head a little bit, your logic, your deduction. Be curious. We've talked about curiosity in a past kind of conversation. You
Yeah,
know, you need to be in the sense of wanting to develop yourself to be good. And so there's no simple answer.
yeah,
I have a lot of mentors, and they don't even know they're my mentors.
yeah,
So one of them
yeah,
is, one of them I firmly believe is been super important in my formative years as an entrepreneur and as an employee and just in general as a professional. His name is Rick Ziegler. He's a sales guy. He passed away years ago. Uh,
hmm hmm
and there's a lot of great things that come from those timeless teachings. And
yeah,
there's podcasts, there's videos, there's stuff that you
yeah,
can listen that you can almost feel like, man, he's talking to me,
yeah,
about that. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You just have to go look. And in the world of YouTube, in the world of podcasts, you could probably
yeah.
find something that's really, really good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And going back just to the topic of payroll horror stories, I feel like that's going to come from doing it for the first time, not
Yeah.
having a mentor, not having somebody you can ask questions to, or a system that is standardized and you can trust. And ultimately, it's the stuff you didn't know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's no way you can prepare yourself to avoid horror stories you didn't know existed unless you're going to the people who live it every day, and you're looking for all the signs, like a successful business owner, great reviews for a software product or whatever. Just whatever your knee-jerk reaction is probably not going to work. I know you got stuff to do. I know you're an entrepreneur. You got a million things to do, but just fixing the putting a little bit of tape around the leak on the faucet is, because that seems like the quickest, fastest, most logical thing to do, is there's a better way. And you don't have to come up with every solution. And I think that goes to what you were just saying about, it can be lonely at the top. I hate that idea. I
Oh
hate
man,
that.
I hate
You
it
know,
too. I hate it.
yeah. Like I remember somebody I worked for in the past. Um, there was something difficult we were dealing with in the office, and she said to me, "Well, Juliana, if you want to keep growing your career, you have to get used to being lonely, because you have nobody when you're at the top." And I said, like, instantly, my reaction was, if that's what it's like at the top, I never want to be there.
Hmm.
But maybe I need to define it differently, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of wokeness. So I want to take your comment for a second, and I think the problem is
Hmm
that it might be lonely at the top because we never communicate, to our team members or to partners or to stakeholders, the fact that it's painful to go through the development that you do to get to the top.
Yeah.
And this is actually something that I had a conversation with a recent colleague, and I have conversations with my brothers whom they usually ask me for advice. They're in the banking world or in different other trades too, so I kind of provide them some insight. And one of the things that I tell them is what got me to where I am right now is a certain level of that got me to the level of grit that I have is this pain that I went through, right? Like, so
hmm
for example, like my family, we love soccer. I know in your family, you guys like soccer or calcio, whatever you guys like to call it, Italian, right? But in football, when we were learning how to do a specific type of trick,
Yeah.
um, I remember my father was our coach, and my father would never say, "Oh, well, if it hurts, then they stop a little bit. Go
Yeah.
slow." No,
Yeah.
it's like, no, like you need to know how to do this. Do it properly so it doesn't hurt. Learn how to
Yeah.
do that.
Yes.
So, over time, I've been going through, I would say, a lot of adversity. All of us in life, if you're living right now, like there's adversity, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally.
and I happen to love the person I am based on the adversity that I've
Mhm.
received over the years. So, I don't want to limit a person or a mentor or a mentee
Mhm.
by
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, don't go through that pain."
Yes.
I'm saying do it properly, go through it, understand that
Mhm.
there's something out of that you can get out of it. The silver lining is that you'll get uncomfortable. You'll
Mhm.
work at the fringes where you're not comfortable, and then you come back into where you are comfortable, recoup, right?
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, what ends up happening is the suffering side of that pain is
Mhm.
optional. Like that's up to you.
Yes.
There's no point for you to actually be angry and be suffering in the world. Just go through what you got to do, get your learning out of it, and then move
Yes.
forward because it's going to help you out. But suffering really is a key. And right now, whether we like to admit it, and I'm going to say something very controversial right now.
Mhm. Hit me.
If you if you're suffering right now, it was you need to make the choice of not suffer anymore to get out of that.
God, you're reading my mind.
Get,
Like,
like get out of the rut.
yeah.
Change your mentality, change your
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah.
Like get out of there. Okay,
Okay.
and it can really be helpful. And actually, you have a lot more power than you think when it comes to all that type of
Mhm.
stuff. So,
Yeah,
uh,
ultimately we have choice. And
right,
it's shocking to me that that's news. I've been when a coaching client that I just so much fear. Well, I can't do that. And it's like, well, why not? Well, I'm not allowed. Actually, you can choose that. You can easily choose. Like, who said you're not allowed? Who said that's the standard? You know, when
right,
Steve Jobs envisioned the iPhone, I don't know if he was actually the originator of the idea, but he didn't say, "Well, this isn't a phone.
right,
I can't put this out there. It's not a phone." If we don't realize, first of all, own our choices, make choices, decide where we want to be, and second, create choices. Just like you don't have to look out at the world and say, "Oh, what kind of business can I run?"
mhm,
What is it that you want to do? What is it that you believe in? What is it that what problem isn't solved? Like there are so many choices that have yet to be chosen. And if you
right.
wait for somebody else or if you follow all the shoulds, you will not achieve your full potential. There's this, I think it's I'm pretty sure it's in Sex and the City. There was this quote that I just loved. And she said, it was Carrie Bradshaw. And she said, "When are we going to stop shooting all over ourselves?"
Mm,
And I just think that is pretty poignant, pretty powerful, pretty accurate with a lot of our behavior, like individuals, as a society, all of us. We're all trying so hard to do what we should do. Somewhere in your gut, you kind of already know who you are. You kind of already know what's right. You kind of already know what path you need to go down. You can fight it. You can take the long path. You can go twice. You can take that path twice, but ultimately, you're still going to go there. It's, uh, yeah, I don't know. That human drive, that grit will get us there, though, I think.
Yeah, like I mean, it's got to be like I don't see it. I mean, if you take a look at any of those people that have been successful early in life or late in life, there's a level of grit, right? They all had that. They all had that kind of the adversity that they had to go through, and there's nothing wrong with going through adversity,
Yeah,
right? Like I think if things are easy, never will it help you, right? Like I
yeah,
mean, it's easy for people who don't have problems. Those people are dead, right? They're 6 feet
yeah.
in the ground. So I mean, there's that kind of that way of thinking, but I think one of the key things that people really forget too that comes from the development of grit is that hey, you'll have that for life, and you can pass that on, make other people's lives easier. So
Yeah,
um,
totally.
I think we forget that we're in business because we want to make not just our life easier, right?
Yeah.
Many of us will pass on our our wealth or our knowledge or our experiences to, if we're lucky enough, to our children, other family members, other coworkers that become your family, right? Like, that trust. And so I think it's important that, people have their story and they have their conversations and they kind of pass it on. That aunt and uncle or grandparent that basically always gave you advice when you didn't want it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, you ignore that.
Yeah,
all
and
you want, and you can justify ignoring it. You can, like, oh, she's always giving her opinion. Oh, she won't shut up or whatever. But at the end of the day, if it's bothering you so much, it's probably hitting a chord, right? Like it's probably the message you need to hear the most. You mentioned, adversity, like you can't develop that grit without adversity. I know an entrepreneur who just has such a cool story. He's got sort of the dream story where he grew up in wealth. He went to all the best schools, from kindergarten, went to, Ivy League, US colleges.
We're not talking about Trump, right?
No, he started a company, did something really, really cool. I don't want to name names right now, but and Facebook bought his business.
Okay, yeah.
Wow, right? Like awesome.
Right.
And it just sounds like the perfect story. No adversity. Well, Facebook bought the business and then shut it down. Okay, whatever the reason was, whether they couldn't monetize it or whether they didn't want that competition for another product, there is adversity.
Yeah.
I don't care what the story is. And it's so easy to feel alone, as an entrepreneur, as anybody with a goal. It's so easy to feel alone because you feel like you're fighting that battle to get there yourself, but you're not. You need to really rely on the people around you. Ask the tough questions, ask for the brutal truth, ask for the ugly stories, the horror stories. That's how you learn from history instead of repeat it ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% with you. I think that yeah, horror stories are great. I mean, that's why they're so prevalent right now. Like we're going to the Halloween season, and how many times have you get stuck watching like some scary movie? You're like, I can't not look.
Yeah, totally.
And you learn absolutely. That's not only about learning though.
Yeah.
You know what life is like. Meaning, like you go through it, and your heart just is going nuts when you're going through that, when you're scared.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be debilitating. The fear should jumpstart you into action. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs too, they forget, is that when you're going through a rough time, you're going through hell, don't stop and wait it out in hell.
Right.
Like keep going. Like, get out.
Oh God, yeah. Go for the light. Go for the light.
You need to double down. You hunker down or you double down. You need to double down and you make it happen, and you kind of get out of the adversity. But it's very counterintuitive, right? It's very counterintuitive. A person says, "Oh, I'll wait it out. I can wait it out."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to take double the length of time.
Exactly. It will. Everything will pass. This too shall pass, is the famous saying. But can you change the outcome? Maybe, maybe not. But you can definitely change the timeline.
Right.
So put some energy there. It's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the other thing is that I'm going to say, as we kind of have a conversation about all this, stop comparing yourself to others.
Yes.
Okay? One of the horror stories here, they're only horror stories because you compare them to other relative scenarios, right?
Yes.
So
true.
Yeah, so don't compare yourself. I think it's Albert Einstein that said, like comparison is or Winston Churchill, I forget. Google it. Comparison is a thief of joy. Like don't you need to make sure that you have an ability to understand the joy for yourself, and the joy is not competing, with the competition and trying to be better than them, right? Almost take that Simon Sinek's approach of the infinite game, and your role is to just elongate however long you're going to have this business. Whoever loses is not whoever has less points; it's whoever just can't perpetuate that business anymore. Don't worry about the competition. You worry about you and your business. The goal of the game, of the infinite game that Simon Sinek, his book talks about, is is the rules are to perpetuate the game and to keep going as long as possible. Right?
Yeah, you gotta love the process. If the only reason why you're in something is for the destination, that's a heck of a lot of investment for a moment of achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I would love to not work and get $70 million from the lottery and just get it to me, and then just kind of live my life. But I mean, I think it's fair to say that you're going to go look for a challenge,
Totally.
when you have the time, right? So it's a bit of a give and take there. So it's something that's super important. It's something that people forget. It's something that's actually very common in the world. It's being talked about quite a bit. You'll hear Gary Vaynerchuk talk about it. You'll hear Kerwin Ray talk about it. You'll hear all these business consultants, who large, small, medium, everybody talk about kind of like the grit and the positivity.
And in the meantime, I think that enjoying that process, Gary specifically says over and over again that yes, he wants to own the Jets, he does, but the reason he does what he does every day isn't just for that far out goal. It's because he loves doing what he does every day.
Right.
And if we all do what we love, somebody is being paid to do what you love. So be that person.
Mm-hmm.
Then you love your life. The whole saying, you don't work a day in your life because you love what you do. And you have the stamina and the grit for that infinite game. Is the goal to end up with a certain, balance in the bank account when you retire? Or is it to reach as many people as possible along the way?
Yeah, along the way. We don't get out of this thing alive, right? So
no, exactly.
And that's one of the things that Gary always talks. He's like, Gary, can you give me some motivation and a few words possible? He's like, you're gonna die.
Yeah, right.
Get moving, right?
Yeah.
I know that could sound morbid to some, especially if they're going through a tough time with things, with individuals maybe not being a part of their lives anymore. But the beautiful part of the world that we live in, and the reality that we live in, is that there's a duality of life. There's going to be bad things that happen, or things that happen that eventually will give us a great outcome of something, or a great opportunity. And there's equally sometimes, great things that happen that end up being a horrible experience afterwards, or led to something else that was not so good. And so that's life. Duality. Remember that it's not all good. It's not all bad, right? It allows you to have that that hindsight and foresight, and bring it present here, to be able to get your growth on, get your move on. So easier said than done. We're saying this a lot, and maybe they're cliche sayings, but I think funny enough, as entrepreneurs, we need to hear it. Okay. Keep your head up, queen. Keep your head up, king. It's all good. Like you're gonna keep going. You're gonna and guess what? You're gonna dictate where you want to go. Okay, and don't be okay with it. Don't not be okay with it. Like make your bed, you sleep in it. Kick some butt, have some fun. And then hopefully along the way you have a great story to tell.
Yes, totally. So, and you'll have some horror. If you've done it right, you'll have some horror stories too.
Absolutely, you'll have horror stories.
Yeah, you will. We'll have to make that another conversation. Horror stories that happened along the way, because there are definitely some of those. I know I have some of those.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know that this conversation went to a bunch of different places, but I'm actually glad that it did. I think entrepreneurs everywhere, small business owners, people leaders, are often struggling with not just the logistics of how to do the responsibilities that are on their list, but also how do you stay in the right headspace, and who do you rely on, and are you alone, and all of that resilience comes down to a lot of what we talked about today. So I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I loved it too. I mean, maybe we can end up with something valuable for some of our viewers and some of our listeners here. Aside from our conversation, like, is there something that you do, Juliana, that that puts you in the right headspace to kind of.
Yeah, actually. So, for over 10 years, I've taught anger management classes, and
Okay.
there's this technique that everyone always says just count down from 10 or something like that to calm down. But there's this technique to calm yourself down when you're very very escalated, and essentially you create a 3-song playlist for yourself, something that is a bit calmer from where you are, and then something that is in between where you were and where you want to be, and then the song that brings you to your good place.
Mm.
And yeah, I'll totally listen to those songs. Like I'm such a nerd. I literally have a playlist on my phone called Badass, which is hilarious because it's it's just comical that I even listen to some of this music. But yeah, when I need to, I'll play my little playlist, and by the end of it, I'm pumped, completely pumped. How about you? Any tips like that?
So yeah, I have something similar to it. I have so aside from breathing, this is going to sound silly, but I use basically, I forget what the method's called, but a long time ago I learned from my dad that hey, breathe in for 6, hold for 6, breathe out for 6 seconds. Uh,
Hmm.
and so it kind of really kind of calms me down. I'm doing a lot of meditation as of late, whether it's
Hmm.
late at night or early in the morning, usually late at night because I get up, pretty early, but I want to get as much sleep as I can.
Yeah.
And when I say that, it's like I don't sleep a lot to begin with. Like I sleep like 5, 6 hours max,
Yeah.
max. And so I find that the meditation really helps. I use this app on my cell phone called literally, I think it's called meditation. Let me just double check really quickly. I think it's called. Oh, here it is. It is. Ooh, I think it's just literally listed as medit. Yeah, it's called Bright Mind. It's called Bright
Oh
Mind.
yes, yes, I've heard of that.
So I use Bright Mind, and it actually calms me down. But hey, if you don't want to pay for a subscription or something, you can easily go to Apple Music or Spotify and just
Mhm.
get like a session.
YouTube, yeah, just find something that's free. It's good
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's actually really good stuff. There's some really
Yeah.
guided meditations and stuff like that that come out of that. You just have to kind of do a little digging. Um, I'm a music fanatic myself. I also use that in different ways. Uh,
Hmm.
I find classical calms me down and jazz calms me down.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those are the things that I'm using.
Yeah.
But not only that, the last thing that I think I use um, is my family. My I have some great people around me.
That's awesome.
This is gonna sound funny, but like I mean it from the bottom. My wife puts me in my place, and I love that she does because it
Yeah.
helps me to really realize what's important. And so,
Yeah.
I may I may give her a hard time. Sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, please don't talk to me like that."
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, it definitely helps us out, and it definitely kind of puts the perspective on. That's for those who have a great partner that they can leverage,
Hmm.
because that's love, right? That's
That's love, the yin and yang, man. You know?
absolutely, like love is,
Wow.
is creating the balance, right? So
Yeah.
if you're pissed off, they're like, hey, it's okay, don't get angry, and
Yeah.
they try to bring that equilibrium back. If
Yes.
you're down, if you're like depressed, it's like, hey,
Hmm.
cheer up, right? There,
Yeah.
love is trying to create that balance. So
Hmm.
as fluffy and frou-frou as that may sound, uh,
No, it's real.
I think it's really interesting, and it doesn't mean go out and find a relationship that way, but you can do that with friends. You can do that with
Yeah.
family
Totally.
members. You can do that with colleagues. I mean, there's genuine love out there, and there's many types of love. We're not talking about romantic love. It doesn't have to be that way, right? But um,
Hmm.
it's interesting. There's a lot of things you can do, and
Yeah, for
hopefully
sure.
something here helps and resonates with someone that they can try.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I'll say, like, we're here for the small business community,
Right.
right? Like, so sometimes you just have to find people that are like-minded and get what you're going through. And we do. We care about the small business um, world. We care about fight the good fight.
Mhm.
We're here to help. Um, so I always call out at the end of these sessions, but I think it's really on topic right now. Email us. WhatsApp. I don't know if we have WhatsApp. Call us, tweet us.
Now we have to do WhatsApp. Now,
Yeah, right. Now we got to do that. However you want to reach out to us, let us know what you need. We'll find the expert to come on the show. We'll get you the information. We'll do everything that we can to support you guys. So yeah, resources are everywhere, and we definitely want to be a resource for you. It is just a bit over an hour. I really enjoyed our call. We're having cocktails, I think, in an hour.
yeah, we are. We have a company kind of coffee break, cocktail break on Friday nights or Friday afternoon, late afternoon, around 4 o'clock our local time. And yeah, it's always the more
loud.
attended.
Oh yeah. It's the meeting everyone actually wants to come to.
Yeah, it's a meeting that everybody wants to come to. So
it's the meeting. All right. Well, I will see you there shortly. And thank you everyone for attending today. Tweet us at PayEvo and send us your topics, send us your comments, your feedback. And thank you so much for your attention today.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye.